The mass extermination of cats during Pope Gregory IX's time contributed to the increase in the rat population, which led to the spread of the bubonic plague, killing hundreds of millions of people. The photo shows the corpse of Anna Maria von Stockhausen. After her death, she was tied up to prevent her from escaping the grave. According to folklore, Stockhausen was a witch who resurrected herself 5 times. This is a screw gag, which doctors use to place in a patient's mouth during surgery to prevent them from screaming. Sometimes, the patient was also hit on the head with a rubber mallet, and the surgery was performed quickly before they regained consciousness. Harold Gillies is rightly called the father of modern plastic surgery. Thanks to his method of skin grafting, soldiers disfigured during World War I were given a chance at a new life. On June 3, 1980, due to a computer malfunction that reported a Soviet nuclear attack, the USA declared a nuclear alert. For 10 minutes, the world was on the brink of nuclear war. During the Franco-Prussian War, when the Germans besieged Paris in 1870 for 5 months, food shortages quickly arose in the city. Common products ran out, and Parisians began eating horse meat, then cats, dogs, and rats. When that meat was also exhausted, chefs began purchasing animals from zoos. After antelopes, camels, and zebras, the turn came for the 2 Parisian elephants, Castor and Pollux. By comparison, during the more than 2-year blockade of Leningrad, its residents did not touch any animals from the zoos. A horrific experiment from 1970 to determine whether there was a link between smoking and cancer. The first woman who attempted to participate in an election. When trying to enter the polling station, she was pushed out and thrown to the ground. United Kingdom, 1872. Auschwitz concentration camp, the very furnace in which people were burned. Ancient Roman tokens used for paying prostitutes. The first Briton caught for speeding. Walter Arnold was driving at 7 miles per hour, while the limit was 2 miles per hour. A police officer started chasing him on a bicycle and caught the offender, 1896. American serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer accidentally took sleeping pills instead of his intended victim, and upon waking, found himself tied up and raped with a candle. Vesna Vulovic, a Serbian flight attendant who survived the highest fall without a parachute from 33,000 feet in 1972. During the settlement of the western regions of North America, there were mostly men living there. In the photo, 4 men from Montana posted a notice on their house saying they were looking for wives. Early 20th century. A method of restraining a mentally ill person in a British asylum to prevent them from hurting themselves during an hysterical fit, 1950. A method of restraining a mentally ill person in a British asylum to prevent them from hurting themselves during an hysterical fit, 1950. The execution of a thief in Persia, early 20th century. This is not a statue, but a person undergoing an elaborate execution. He was tied up, a wall was built around him from raw bricks, and the form was then filled with lime. 6 hours later, the unfortunate was still alive, and a shooting followed. According to the caption, the crime was the theft of 2 cucumbers. In the photo, the 1st German Division of Sex Intelligence during World War II, they were selected based on their appearance. Sea lions are beaten to death with sticks on St. Paul Island, Alaska, 1895. Emperor Wilhelm II of Germany visits black people at the Hamburg Zoo, 1909. Passersby study a new map of Europe after World War I, 1918. A woman who survived the atomic bombing of Nagasaki, 1945. Residents of East Berlin flee to the west through a hole in the fence before border guards notice. Berlin, 1961. In 1930, a terrifying discovery was made. It was a device with a skull inside, which mimicked the contours of a human body. This was how bandits, pirates, and murderers were executed. They were hung for display until they died. Before the signing of Germany's surrender on May 8, 1945, the head of the German delegation, Field Marshal Keitel, seeing French military personnel among those present at the ceremony, was astonished and asked, "What? Did these also defeat us?" Survivors of the Japanese attack on an Australian Navy patrol ship during World War II. They built a raft and were spotted from the air, but due to a storm, they were unable to be rescued that day. They were never seen again. Gavrilo Princip is detained right after shooting Archduke Ferdinand, Sarajevo, 1914. A chimpanzee astronaut receives an apple after the first successful spaceflight. USA, 1961. U.S. troops invaded Panama, allegedly to protect 35,000 American citizens, but in reality, to overthrow the government and regain control of the Panama Canal. The photo shows fighting near the Ministry of Defense of Panama, 1989. The first phone call by an Aborigine, Australia, 1975. In 1871, American lawyer Clement Vallandigham was defending a man accused of murder after a bar fight. He built the defense on the idea that the victim accidentally shot himself while pulling out a pistol from his pocket in an awkward position. Vallandigham wanted to demonstrate this by placing a gun, which he believed was unloaded, in his own pocket. As he pulled it out, he accidentally shot himself. He died from the wound, and his client was acquitted. On May 7, 1954, the U.S. officially refused the USSR entry into NATO. This decision clearly signaled the United States' hostile stance toward the Soviet Union, leading to an arms race and the intensification of the Cold War between the two powers. In 1997, a collapse occurred at a mine in China. 17 years later, one of the miners was found alive. Cambridge students protest the admission of women to the university, United Kingdom, 1897. The Japanese listened to the emperor's message about surrender, Japan, 1945. May 2, 1945. Soviet soldiers examined German awards that were never presented. During Prohibition in the U.S., it was illegal to produce, sell, or transport alcohol. As a result, winemakers resorted to tricks to survive in the new environment. For example, they started selling grape concentrates in bricks, labeling them with warnings. After dissolving the contents in a gallon of water, do not drink, not store the liquid in a closed cupboard, as after 20 days, it will turn into wine. The First Feminists, 1911. While on the North African front of World War II, German tankers developed a tradition of driving over piles of camel dung for luck. Seeing this, the British made anti-tank mines disguised as these piles. After several mines exploded, the Germans started avoiding untouched piles of dung. The British then made mines that looked like piles of dung, with tracks of tanks having already driven over them. In the photo, a crowd of white civilized Americans mocks two participants in the Civil Rights Movement, 1965. French soldiers use a homemade trench catapult to throw grenades at German positions, 1915. A medal for drunkenness in the form of a collar with a cast iron medal, late 18th century. Jack Daniel, the father of the famous whiskey Jack Daniels, died from blood poisoning 6 years after injuring his foot by kicking his safe, to which he had forgotten the combination. Nebraska resident Audra Thomas photographs herself as a tornado approaches her farm. USA, 1989. Nebraska resident Audra Thomas photographs herself as a tornado approaches her farm. USA, 1989. The last photos of Adolf Hitler, where he is examining the ruins of Berlin hours before his death, 1945. The last day of gold distribution by the government, China, 1949. The May 2nd, 1945 edition of the Stars and Stripes newspaper, Hitler is dead. After serving 14 years for robbing a bank, John Voidovich got a job as a security guard at the very same bank. The inscription on his t-shirt reads, "I robbed this bank." Todd Browning on the set of his movie, Freaks, USA, 1932. The battle for life. In the photo, an American punches a Vietnamese in the face in a struggle for a spot on the last helicopter leaving the U.S. Embassy during the evacuation in Saigon, Vietnam, 1975. A strange device that horrified animal lovers, 1940. Mormons imprisoned for polygamy, Utah, 1889. Alcatraz Prison, where the most dangerous American criminals were held, operated until 1963 and was the only federal prison at the time where inmates had access to warm showers. The administration decided that prisoners accustomed to comfort would be less likely to attempt to escape by swimming across the cold San Francisco Bay. The Primwaddle twins. When the husband found out his wife gave birth to twins, he was horrified and left the family. After this betrayal, Mrs. Primwaddle hated men. But unfortunately, the twins were boys. She decided to act as though her boys were girls. The children believed they were girls until the age of 19. Upon learning the truth, they decided they would not tolerate it anymore. They strangled their mother with a scarf and gouged out her eyes. U.S. Lieutenant Jeremy Shales plays baseball inside one of Saddam Hussein's palaces. Iraq, 2003. Viking skates made of leather and horsebone, 10th century. Joe Matani, a maniac who dismembered bodies, mixed human flesh with animal meat, and made burger patties to serve to customers in his cafe. The expiration date on milk bottles was first introduced thanks to Al Capone. After his niece became seriously ill from drinking spoiled milk, the influential Chicago gangster persistently lobbied for milk expiration dates to ensure the safety of children and pregnant women. Drug lord and political figure Pablo Escobar in the Colombian Congress, 1982. The Football War, 1969. The direct cause of the war was Honduras' loss to El Salvador in playoff matches for the 1970 FIFA World Cup. December 1942. A bomb labeled New Year's Gift for Hitler. A forest truck accident where a log pierced a passenger car, Buffalo, New York, 1929. Bombing for peace is like having sex for virginity, a famous slogan used by hippies during protests against the Vietnam War in the 1960s. Many are surprised by the fact that Pope Benedict XVI served in Nazi Germany. Protesters demand that President Truman take action against the execution of people, USA, 1946. Nearly 80% of Soviet men born in 1923 died during World War II. Unlicensed prostitutes caught by the police at the famous fair, Russia, 1900s. children using a Bellamy salute during the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag. A year later, the ritual was changed due to its resemblance to the Nazi salute, 1942. Former prisoners of the German concentration camp demonstrate the torture methods they endured. Germany, 1945. Julius Dack at the Chicago police station, 1906. The criminal, disguised as a woman, was hiding from the police, but it seems he still made a mistake somewhere. In 1835, Halley's Comet passed close to Earth, and 2 weeks later, Mark Twain was born. Later, he wrote, "I came in 1835 with Halley's Comet, and I expect to go out with it." And so it happened. Twain died on April 21st, 1910, the day after the comet passed again. It turned out that the American command had planned to drop not 2, but 15 nuclear bombs on Japan. But the unexpected Japanese decision to surrender on August 15, 1945, halted the shipment of plutonium that was already on its way to Japan. A woman uses a special bandage to fight depression. Budapest, 1937. A Boston police officer pulls his four-legged partner, Fritz, out of a construction pit, Massachusetts, 1989. Kashmir Giants with Traveler Professor Rickleton, India, 1903. A mother pleads with the police to return her son after he was arrested during a protest, accusing the government of election fraud, South Korea, 1987. A march of the American Nazi Party in support of Hitler, New York, 1937. One of the last indigenous Tasmanians, exterminated by British settlers, 1869. Oskar Schindler, the German entrepreneur who saved nearly 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust by giving them work in his factories in Poland and the Czech Republic. British photographer William Saunders went to China, where he took this stage beheading photo to evoke disgust in the West about Asian customs and motivate it to civilize China. The exorcism ritual over German girl Anneliese Michel, whose story was the basis for the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Germany, 1976. James Robert Rinrose was on the FBI's most wanted criminals list. When FBI agents arrested him, he told them he had prepared for the arrest, as he had been carrying the essentials for years, and handed them a free jail release card from the board game Monopoly. My mental pain is unbearable, the same unresolved question. If my gun took people's lives, then I am guilty of their deaths. This was written in his last letter before his death by Mikhail Kalashnikov, the creator of the legendary AK-47. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.